In 1923, a man named Kenji Mori was growing food on a plot smaller than a tennis court. No greenhouse, no drip irrigation, no machinery beyond a wooden hand hoe and a bamboo basket. And he was feeding 40 families, not from a farm, not from a rural estate, from 3/10 of an acre of hand-built garden beds on the edge of Tokyo. When agricultural researchers documented these growers in the 1920s, they were stunned. Harvest weights per square meter that dwarfed anything mechanized agriculture would produce 50 years later. Year-round harvests in a climate that should have stopped growth dead. Soil so alive, so deep, so rich that it stayed warm in January, cradling roots that had no business thriving in winter darkness. And then, within 2 decades, the entire method vanished. Not because it stopped working, not because something superior replaced it. It vanished because something louder replaced it, something that scaled, something that fed millions while quietly bankrupting the people who grew the food. Today, we are reconstructing that method. By the end of this video, you will understand precisely how they did it. How the Tokyo market gardeners transformed tiny urban fringe plots into perpetual food engines. And how you can replicate this on 2,000 square feet beginning this growing season. But first, you must grasp what was erased. Tokyo in the early 1900s faced a challenge that contemporary cities have forgotten. The metropolis required fresh produce daily, and there were no refrigerated trucks, no global supply chains, no imported vegetables from other continents. What the city consumed had to be grown close enough to reach market stalls within hours of harvest. The individuals who solved this puzzle were called shimin noenka, the citizen farmers. They occupied land just outside the urban core, tiny plots ranging from 1/10 to half an acre. The terrain was not exceptional, the weather was not kind. Tokyo winters are damp, gray, and persistent. What was extraordinary was the technique. They had mastered one truth. When space is restricted, you do not optimize for ease. You optimize for yield per square meter. Every centimeter must produce. Fallow ground was economic suicide. They managed their beds like a jeweler manages a display case. Continuous production. To achieve this, they engineered a system with 4 interconnected components: deep soil cultivation, relentless succession planting, season extension using glass and compost thermal mass, and direct-to-consumer sales that eliminated every intermediary. By the 1920s, the most skilled gardeners were harvesting 12 months annually, pulling 4 cycles from a single bed. Some maintained waiting lists of wealthy households who paid premium prices for the honor of a weekly vegetable delivery. And then the 1950s arrived, petroleum-based agriculture arrived, synthetic fertilizers arrived. The philosophy shifted. It shifted from yield per square meter to yield per labor hour. Wide rows became logical if machines were traversing them. Deep hand-worked beds became irrational if a machine could do in 1 hour what took a gardener 5 days. Discarded. It was discarded, not dramatically, but slowly, as the practitioners grew old and passed away, and no one documented it. In the 1980s, an American agronomist named Dr. Elaine Ingham began excavating what remained of this knowledge. She traveled to rural Japan, interviewed elderly growers, and brought the techniques back to Oregon to test them scientifically. What she discovered confirmed everything. Japanese intensive beds produced 4 times the nourishment of conventional garden rows. The soil strengthened every season instead of depleting. The return on labor measured in food value was remarkable. Her research is now peer-reviewed, the data exists, and yet most growers in the West have never encountered this system. The agrochemical industry has no motivation to inform you that your patio can feed your household. Most follow what they were taught: till a row, plant seeds, walk between rows to weed and harvest. That system was designed around the width of a draft horse. The Japanese intensive system was designed around an entirely different constraint: the reach of a human arm, narrow beds that never compact. A bed is never wider than you can comfortably reach from either side, typically 120 centimeters. You never step onto the bed, ever, because each time you compress that soil, you destroy weeks of biological construction. The soil architecture collapses. The air channels seal. Roots struggle. Instead, you work exclusively from the edges, loose and alive. Instead, you work exclusively from the edges. Before planting, the soil is loosened to a depth of 60 centimeters, not 15, 60. You enrich the topsoil with massive quantities of compost. The result is not dirt, it is a living sponge. Water percolates perfectly. Roots descend easily. Microbiology explodes. A head of lettuce becomes dense and harvest-ready faster than any catalog predicts. This depth is what separates sustenance-generating gardens. High-density triangular planting, staggered rows. In a row garden, space between plants is wasted. Here, each plant occupies the gap between the 2 plants ahead of it. When mature, the leaves just barely touch. This shades the soil, suppressing weeds without chemicals and retaining moisture. It maximizes productive plants per square meter. This way can hold 50% more plants than a conventional garden. Every additional plant is food security. Succession planting, the engine. Most growers abandon the greatest potential. Empty beds. The moment one crop is removed, another is installed, same day. They achieve this through planning. As radish is finished, a flat of lettuce was already established and waiting. Continuous cycles. A single 10 square meter bed might produce 6 distinct harvests per year. Compare that to the typical garden's 1 or 2. The mathematics are straightforward. If one crop yields $200, 4 successions yield $800. Land cost identical. Soil as the engine. The Tokyo gardeners used city organic waste, sawdust, rice hulls, scraps. They paid to receive them. They composted them in deep bins between plots. Fresh material composts hot, 60 degrees at the core, a thermal battery. They harnessed that heat. Glass bell jars or cold frames constructed from salvaged windows were placed over early plantings. Beneath, decomposing matter warmed the soil. Above, glass trapped solar energy. Plants grew in February that had no right to exist. Early harvests meant first-to-market status and highest prices, selling scarcity before supply caught up with demand. Today, you don't need 1920s waste. You need rich biological compost from kitchen scraps and garden debris. The principle is identical. You build the soil first, and the soil generates the harvests. This is what the industry doesn't want you to examine too carefully. Industrial agriculture optimizes for one metric, yield per hectare at continental scale. To do that, you require machinery, wide rows. To fertilize wide rows cheaply, you use synthetic nitrogen. To control weeds, you use herbicides. Decisions for continental scale. To fertilize wide rows cheaply, you use synthetic nitrogen. To control weeds, you use herbicides. Decisions for continental scale. Industrial agriculture earns pennies per kilogram. You produce premium harvests consumed fresh and direct for quality. Supermarket lettuce earns farmers 30 cents. A head of same-day harvested lettuce commands $4 to $8. Different reality. Hands receiving cash from a customer for a fresh vegetable box. High contrast, shallow depth of field. Sense of local exchange. Reconstructing this on your own land is economic intelligence. 2,000 square feet is more than sufficient. Serious food source. Tools. No tractors. A quality digging fork, a broad fork, a hori-hori knife. $150 to $300 for a lifetime. Compost is your primary advantage. Operate 3 bins in rotation. 1 building, 1 maturing, 1 finished. Source locally. Focus on high-value crops with short days. Salad greens, radishes, turnips. Small investment for an extraordinary return. Step 1. Lay out your beds. 120 centimeters wide, as long as space permits. On 2,000 square feet, you fit 15 beds. Step 2. Deep fork. It's labor, but you perform it once. Loosen to 60 centimeters. Add compost to the lower layer. Your sponge. The bed sits above the pathways. In subsequent years, you only add compost to the surface and let biology incorporate it. Step 3. Begin modestly. Build 5 beds. Learn the succession timing. The Tokyo growers spent years mastering their craft. Patience. Step 4. Plant in succession. Think in weeks, not seasons. Radishes in 30 days. Lettuce transplants ready exactly on time. Instinctive. Let's discuss numbers. A single 10 square meter bed can produce between $300 and $600 in value annually. Conservative. 20 beds on 2,000 square feet could generate $12,000 annually. Sell direct. CSA models are perfectly aligned. You sell 20 families a box at the start of the season. Income arrives before expenses. This is documented reality for growers now. What separates a market garden from a hobby? Systems. A market grower asks what the bed will be producing every single week. Planning. How much harvest is secured before the seed enters the ground? Meticulous records. They were small-scale entrepreneurs working soil. If you approach this as a system, 2,000 square feet is not a hobby. It's a food source that improves every year as skills compound. This is not a hobby. This is not a trend. This is a system that was set aside not because it failed, but because it made the grower independent. Most households spend $15,000 on food. A functioning garden displaces thousands of dollars of annual spending, generates income. When your soil is alive, growing things feels different. Plants respond visibly. Growth rates exceed logic. Collaboration, not battle. In 5 years, you have extraordinary ground producing more nourishment than any other system. No dependence on supply chains. Safe. Subscribe so you do not miss the next system we uncover. Your soil is waiting. Subscribe, your soil is waiting. Subscribe so you do not miss the next system we uncover. Your soil is waiting. Subscribe, your soil is waiting. 10 years from now, food prices will be higher. Supply chains will have experienced more disruptions. More households will be anxious. You will walk out to your beds in the early morning, harvest a basket of greens that were in the ground 1 hour ago. Comprehend in a way that defies words why the Tokyo market gardeners protected this knowledge so carefully for over 2 centuries. And independent growers do not need to purchase what industrial agriculture is selling. The knowledge has always been here. The ground beneath your feet is waiting. If this opens something within you, if you can envision yourself standing at those beds, with a full harvest basket and a waiting list of people eager for your produce, subscribe so you do not miss the next system. Share this with someone who has a patch of ground and has not yet discovered what to do with it. The information is here. The system functions. The only remaining step is to begin cultivating. Your soil is waiting. The code is yours. This is more than gardening. This is the reconstruction of a hidden economy, a way to reclaim the sovereignty of your own dinner table. Teach your children where their sustenance truly comes from. Build a legacy that grows deeper and richer with every passing season. The plant wealth code is not a secret anymore. It is a tool, a weapon against inflation, and a shield for your family's future. Join the thousands who are reclaiming their land. The era of industrial dependence is ending. Your era of abundance is starting today. Subscribe, share, cultivate. Your soil is waiting. The plant wealth code is now in your hands. Go forth and grow.